So, agenda item 8A, which is another petition debate, and this is road usage for hospitality. This petition has reached to the 3,500 signature threshold to qualify for a full council debate. 20 minutes is the maximum time allowed for this item. The petition organiser will be permitted up to 5 minutes to present the petition and its objectives. We'll then proceed to the full council debate. And again, I will ask the Mayor at the end or the relevant Cabinet member to respond at the end of the debate. As a reminder, this is not interactive. We will listen to the councillors speak on it. The issues raised in the petition and the comments of the members during the debate will be referred to the Mayor and the relevant Cabinet member for a response. The petition organiser is Barbie, the Bristol Association of Restaurants, Bars and Independent Establishments. Please may I ask Brendan Murphy to present the petition. You have 5 minutes to speak to it.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for including our petition on road usage for hospitality for discussion today. You will have seen over 4,500 signatures, over 700 comments and lots of statements. I think it's important for me to read it out again. This statement is made by Barbie, the British Association of Restaurants, Bars and Independents in Bristol, which represents over 450 venues and 11,000 hospitality workers across the region in regard to road usage for hospitality businesses. We are extremely concerned for those venues that sit outside specific pedestrianised or semi-pedestrianised zones with no pub garden or outdoor space and where the pavement is too narrow to put tables and chairs. They've been utilising parking bays and on parts of the road, but are now told they have to remove this before the end of October. We are urging the Mayor and his administration to use all of their powers to protect these businesses and jobs by invoking traffic regulation orders, temporary TROs, emergency TROs, and even bylaws through until September 2023, in line with the extension of off-sales for venues. Whilst powers can be handed down nationally from government, this can also be a local authority decision if they were so minded. The recent letter issued by Bristol City Council, called Outdoor Hospitality Structures and Licences, has caused widespread confusion, as it stated the following. All businesses, including cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants, must ask the council for permission to have tables, chairs and other pavement furniture or structures on the pavement or road. Businesses with existing structures will be given time to retrospectively apply for the necessary licences or planning permission. That was greeted with great cheer by most venues. However, this does not apply to any businesses that are using the road outside designated zones. Bristol City Council has announced a cost of living crisis. Now is not the time to further jeopardise independent Bristol hospitality businesses who have worked hard to survive the pandemic and keep staff in their jobs. Putting this simply, we are asking for some parking bays to be suspended in order for independent hospitality businesses to survive. We've been told that this is not possible, yet temporary traffic restriction order was passed on the 4th of March 2022 to facilitate reallocation of road space to enable social distancing from 11 AM until 11 PM outside of the pedestrianised and semi-pedestrianised areas. The council departments knew that this decision was coming. They should have acted earlier. Sasha Lord, the Nighttime Economy Advisor to Greater Manchester, will be speaking tomorrow, and I urge those in the administration or the officers to watch this about how important the nighttime economy is to the recovery of the high street and local economy. There are a number of campaigns being run in Bristol to help the high streets. This can start with the hospitality industry. Without urgent intervention, hospitality will be decimated this winter. Also, for venues that have removed their canopies to improve them for the winter are now being told they are no longer allowed to put them back up. Where is the common sense here? We have one side of Cotton Hill that is pedestrianised, where their canopies can stay up, and the other side, where they've taken them down to improve them, are not allowed to put them back up without planning permission. Perhaps this can provide some extra revenue to the council with the cost-cutting going on currently, as all venues are happy to pay. Can we please be assured that the Mayor and the administration will use all of their powers to suspend some parking bays? Jobs and businesses are on the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I first call on Councillor Marley Bennett to speak for the Labour Group?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank Barbie for bringing this important petition to the Council and for the other contributions that we've heard tonight. It's crucial we recognise the importance of hospitality, not just in contributing to the local economy and creating jobs, but in providing the venues that makes Bristol the best city to live in. Amidst the difficult economic situation, not helped by the self-inflicted damage from Westminster, many business owners will hold understandable concerns about their viability, and the recent announcement that alcohol duty will rise is yet another bitter blow. I know all too well how having outside seating can benefit a business. I've not yet been to every outside seated area in Bristol, but I've completed King Street and have just last night enjoyed a drink sat outside the Seven Stars before a gig. During the COVID pandemic, there was an incredible response from the hospitality sector to adapt to the rules, particularly those restricted inside dining whilst allowing dining outside. As a council, we rightly acted flexibly to support this, which is why we saw many outside seated areas spring up in a very short space of time. Now, the government has chosen not to renew the rules that mean these structures do now need planning permission and highways approval through a traffic regulation order, TRO. Unfortunately, the council legally cannot grant temporary TROs in the way suggested by the petition, but we will work with businesses where possible. All businesses with existing outside structures have been told they should now apply for retrospective planning permission. I've been assured by the licensing team and highways officers that there will be no enforcement action taken on businesses that are in the process of doing this. Getting the relevant permissions can be a complex process as it requires approval from up to 3 separate regimes, licensing, planning, and if it's on a road, highways. The comms the council has put out so far has tried to explain this as simply as possible by recognising how confusing this can be for business owners who have so many other concerns. This is why we'll be producing an overarching guidance document that explains the process clearly. Now we're out of the pandemic, it is right that existing outside structures go through the licensing and planning process. I strongly support reclaiming road space for people, but we also need to have conversations about the use of public space, which the council pays to maintain, by private businesses, some of whom are installing permanent structures. This is why we need to come up with a policy that acknowledges the benefits these structures bring to hospitality alongside other considerations, like accessibility and appearance. People with mobility issues should have confidence they'll be able to navigate Bristol's streets without hindrance, and we should be able to ensure the streetscape remains attractive. I'm going to be chairing a working group that comes up with a policy for how the highways team deals with future applications that considers these issues, and I'm grateful to the councillors from other groups who've said they'll sit on this group. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to listen to the hospitality sector and to come up with a policy that works for all of Bristol. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now call on Councillor Stafford Townsend to speak on behalf of the Greens, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Barbie. One of the positive lessons that we learned from the height of the COVID pandemic was the value of community, of the outside, and of reclaiming the space for wider usage than cars. One such great usage was using car and road space for more than just car travel or car storage, using the streets and the roads instead for community use, for hospitality businesses, and providing COVID-safe locations to see our loved ones and much-needed additional income for the businesses during that time. Another thing that the pandemic taught us was the resilience for rapid change when required. We're in a climate emergency, and we must rapidly change our car usage. Recommendation 9 of the Citizens' Assembly was to remove between 3 to 6% of car spaces annually in our city in order to meet the 2030 climate targets. Residents want to see us using our roads differently. And we're in an economic emergency. Businesses, hospitality businesses in particular, are extremely concerned for their livelihoods and those of their staff, and they're providing a really clear solution that the council does have in its power to provide. We must support and encourage new ways of using our streets to encourage and to support well-run businesses in our city, our local economy, to reclaim our streets as the hearts and lungs of our community. COVID isn't over yet, we know that, and a long and economically hard winter is coming for us. Our hospitality businesses and high streets need us to support them and help them in every possible way. I support this petition and I call on the Council to implement the asks. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd now like to ask Councillor Weston to speak.
Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor, and thank you and congratulations to the petitioners for gathering their signatures. I'd imagine while you're working, that's no easy task to do as you're trying to make a living. The petition itself, I think, is very good and we support its broad aims. The problem we'll have is how we deliver that practically within the legislative regime in which we work, which Councillor Bennett was talking about. I think it's good that the fact that the payments section of it has been extended, and I do hope, like as we mentioned, that that becomes permanent. It certainly should be. Because hospitality serves us. It's not just us trying to support them, they support us throughout it as well. The important social function that goes with the hospitality trade, the ability to meet with your friends, everything else, is vital from a mental health point of view, and as well as the economic. Often we focus on the economic, we don't talk about the mental health side of it. Many of us, when we talk about the lockdowns, we talk about the pandemic, that not seeing your friends for a drink or a coffee was probably the hardest thing. Now, actually, some of my friends probably don't like me very much, they probably quite enjoyed it, but for me, it was quite concerning. So how do we actually bring about the change that is needed? The legislation has shifted, so that will change from the 1st of November. But we do need the operation in place that we can take back part of the road space, part of the payment space where practical, and actually make sure that it serves our communities, the hospitality trade and local residents. You mentioned that working group, we definitely want to be a part of that. We also need to make sure that it has the standards that we want, and I'm glad and I welcome the fact that you're not talking about no enforcement as they go through the process. I would urge the administration to extend that grace period as people find the new equilibrium. I think they're going to want to feed into that new policy as swiftly as possible before they start making large financial expenses at a time when actually they're being hit. So you've already talked about how there'll be a suspension or a grace period. I would roll that as wide as possible as we bed this in. It is so vital for our economic and mental well-being that the night economy and hospitality trade is nurtured with us. So wholeheartedly support the petition, support the aim on it. The question now is how we deliver it for our city so we can support them as they support us. Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Classic to speak, please?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. And also I'd like to extend my congratulations to Barbie for getting the signatures on the petition. And similar to Councillor Weston, we broadly support the aims of the petition. During the COVID pandemic, obviously our nighttime economy, our restaurants, our bars were hit very hard by the closures, by the lockdowns. And it was really positive as things opened up again to have that outdoor space as our British weather allowed it to be used. Always a consideration in this country. But as people have said, it is a very valuable part of Bristol's community. It becomes a meeting place for people. It becomes just part of enjoyment of life. And that is something, especially with the cost of living crisis looming this winter, that we really do need to protect. Because once bars close and once that starts to happen, we will really lose what makes this city so vibrant and so brilliant. So we definitely support these aims. But obviously the policies that started during COVID haven't been without flaws, and we do need to make sure that as a city we consider accessibility, especially for disabled people and parents with prams and all of those things. So I'm actually also sitting on the, as it's Tables and Chairs Working Group, as it's so brilliantly named. I look forward to working with the Licensing Committee and with those other councillors to create a very robust policy that really does support Bristol's businesses, Bristol's bars, Bristol's restaurants, and also people of Bristol, so that we can continue to use those businesses and they continue to support our community.
Thank you, Councillor Classic. Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you. We also support the principle here contained within a petition. One thing that we would want to bring to everyone's attention is that it's different in different circumstances and different geography. And one thing that we would want the administration to do, as well as not enforcing any planning rules too heavily, which, let's face it, in Bristol, that doesn't happen anyway on anything with regard to planning enforcement. As well as that, we would want local councillors consulted on how things are actually done, because what works brilliantly in one place might not work in another. So I think in most cases, councillors would be welcoming the progression of outside space entertainment areas, but there will be the odd occasion when it does cause a problem, and I hope that that will be listened to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. I think in previous meetings, Councillor Hopkins, I did ask maybe that if you spoke when you're sitting down, because I don't know if everybody's struggling to hear you, but I think when you're standing up and you move around. Don't be rude. Thank you. So now I think I'd like to ask if Mayor Rees would like to speak, to respond. You okay? Okay, so I suppose one thing I'm minded to say, which is that I was speaking to some officers about the nighttime economy yesterday, and they told me that they'd been over to Dublin, which is, of course, my home city, and I was very proud now, because I must be almost Bristolian, because she told me that a load of people from Dublin are coming over to Bristol to see how we do our nighttime economy so well, because Dublin wants to learn from Bristol. So I had a certain amount of pride in that. Thank you. So thank you, Barbie, for bringing this. I now